This is another entry into the Is It Still Worth It playlist, where I take a look at a piece of Quo memorabilia from years gone by and ask the question, is it still worth picking up in whatever year this is? Well, it's 2025, and this year marks 35 years since Status Quo had a huge publicity event for their 25th anniversary, which involved a train journey and a gig at Butlins in Minehead. Now, long-term fans and casual fans will be, I'm sure, slightly confused at times by the numbering of these anniversaries, because 8 years previously, in 1982, Quo were celebrating via an album and a gig in front of royalty for the Prince's Trust their 20th anniversary. And that is because they are essentially the anniversary of different things. The date moved around a little bit. So 1962 was when the band formed by Alan Lancaster and Francis Rossi that went on to be Status Quo, that's when they were formed, right? So then in 1965, Francis Rossi and the band at that time met Rick Parfitt at Butlins in Minehead for the first time. And so that is what this anniversary is about in 1990, that 1965 date. Now, to tie in with this, like I say, it was a huge publicity boost. There were celebrities involved, there was press. They even had a hit single that year as well, called The Anniversary Waltz, which I shall talk about at another point. They released a VHS, which kind of looked like it was going to be a live gig, because they filmed this gig at Butlins in Minehead, so it looked like that's what it was going to be. What it turned out to be was a documentary. So it was later released on DVD, Anniversary Waltz, first released in 1990. It says here, a celebration of 25 rockin' years. And it has a picture of the train on the front. Now, I'm sure there are many fans who picked this up back in the day when it was on VHS and then later on DVD and thought, wow, going to get a live concert, because at that time they did the Rockin' All Over the Years video as well, which was a live concert from the 89 tour. And so this, no, it's a documentary. So you got to see pieces of that live performance. It's hot, it's rocking. It's actually a really good example, I think, of Quo in this period. But because they're leaning into that celebratory documentary angle, we've got interviews with celebrities, we've got interviews with press people, and we've got graphics for years and stuff. And they've done some strange editing at points where a performance from 1990 will suddenly turn into an earlier performance from, say, the 70s or the early 80s, sometimes with different band members. So it gets very confusing at times. I get what they were trying to do, but in retrospect, this is kind of frustrating. And of course, this has been reissued as is in a number of different packages. You may have bought this at some point, or you may have seen this one pop up. It's basically the same content, live legends. There may be minor differences, but not in the main program, I don't think, other than obviously different graphics for the title. But yeah, this, I'm sure, had been a disappointment at some point, and I, along with other fans, had hoped there was going to be another version without all the graphics, because it does get very distracting and it doesn't really lend for rewatching either, because you're trying to watch them play Hold You Back or something, and then you've got this journalist talking about a newspaper from the next day, and you're like, but that was 35 years ago. I just want to see Quo at this point. So that is slightly annoying. I will be covering this gig in more detail. I'd love to speak to anybody that was there. As for whether you should pick this up, I think it depends. I mean, hardcore fans either already have these two, or just one, on VHS or DVD, or they're likely to just pick it up anyway. For the more casual fan, it's a nice little document of an event, but it's not really a live gig. I'd suggest perhaps buying a VHS player or taking a look on YouTube or whatever and just having a look at other examples. I'd love to see some kind of reissue of this at some point without all the graphics, but I'm not sure how feasible that is. It all depends on whether the original thing still exists. I've kind of heard it doesn't, but who knows? Maybe even some kind of live audio album, if that is out there somewhere. So yeah, if you're a hardcore fan, go for it. If not, there are other examples out there. But then again, these are also very cheap. You can pick, I mean, this one especially, you can pick this up so cheaply from like eBay and Vinted and Music Magpie. So yeah, it all depends on your preference, really. I think I have picked these up thinking they were different at some point. So yeah, that does get a bit confusing, doesn't it? What do you think? Do you think it's still worth picking up in 2025? Were you at Butlins in Minehead? Did you see any of the press at the time? Whatever your thoughts, leave them in the comments below, and I'll see you again for another episode of the Quo-Cast.